I don't see Oregon getting challenged before the Penn State game, but on today's show, let's let it rip and find out.
You are Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Oregon Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, it is that time once again for Locked On Ducks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your number one source to stay up to date with the Ducks. Was I wrong about Oregon going 12-0? I'll talk about that. What's the floor for this team? Kenyon Sadiq thoughts. It's Tuesday Trivia. Great question on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Football season is here. Visit the FanDuel app today. Start making every game even more exciting. So, the more that time has gone by since the season began, the more it looks like Oregon's first four games are just going to be cruise control. We're going to see plenty of young guys play, backups in the game. Dante Moore won't play in a fourth quarter. And I can almost guarantee somebody will ask me a question, hey, is it bad that Oregon won't have been tested in a fourth quarter yet before they go to Penn State? To which I'd say, yeah, it might not be the most ideal thing in the world because Oregon's next two opponents, as much as I would like for Oregon State and thought they would take a step back towards getting to a competitive level of football that at least more closely resembles what they were before the Pac-12 imploded, they don't look to be there. I mean, they might not have the right head coach in place in Trent Bray. We'll see. He's probably got this season to figure it out, but they got off to a horrible start. And Oregon's opponent this week is Northwestern. The Ducks, according to our friends at FanDuel, 27.5-point favorites. It's kind of crazy how each point spread has been within a point of the other. Or two, like it's been 27.5, 29.5, 28.5. It's been all right there the entire time. And Oregon's covered those numbers handily in the first two games so far. And it's hard to see how the Ducks are going to get challenged in the next couple of weeks. Now, the Northwestern game, when I talked about the non-conference coming into the year, I looked at it not as a game that features a team that could challenge Oregon, but a game with a set of circumstances that could throw Oregon off its rhythm. And the rhythm we have seen in the first 2 weeks, especially on offense, the defense is about what I expect. The offense is further ahead than where I thought it would be 2 games into the Dante Moore era for Oregon. And for them to be at that spot, I look at the talent that Oregon is going to face in the next couple of weeks and the programs that each of those head coaches have been running and say, the only way that Oregon can even get challenged by either of those teams is if Oregon does a bunch of silly stuff. If they stop playing the way they have been the last couple of years. If they drink too much rat poison, to steal a Nick Saban phrase, where you hear how great you are. Suddenly you hear a lot of national pundits like Joel Klatt talking about, hey, we're overlooking Oregon. Hey, Oregon's up to number 4 in the AP poll. And they deserve to have that sort of attention. In the media space, yeah, Oregon's been as impressive as anybody in college football so far. That's not to say they've played their toughest opponents yet, but Georgia just played Austin Peay, a team that's in Southern Utah's conference, go Birds, the UAC, a really good FCS conference. But in FCS, the Big Sky's a really good FCS conference. Montana State came to Autzen 59-13. Granted, there was a lightning delay, which I'm pretty sure Austin Peay had to deal with as well. Georgia beat them 28-6. That was it. And so the fluidity, the explosiveness, the clean nature, I mean, Oregon just looks well coached across the board. And when you combine that with their talent level, I don't know how Northwestern or Oregon State, barring just one gaffe or mistake or sloppiness or lack of focus after another, I don't know how they can keep up with Oregon. Not if they play like this. It has looked way too good. The more you go back and watch those games or think about what the Ducks did to those two opponents, the better they seem, the better they look. And so I don't see how either of those get. I still believe, because of the rivalry factor and the fact that, now Oregon State, they play at Texas Tech this week, number 23 team in the country. They're, I think, a 23.5 point underdog in that spot. Oregon State still might wind up being your toughest game of the four. That's how I felt coming into the year, just for the rivalry factor. But I expected Oregon to win all four of these games. I didn't know it was going to be this easy. Potentially. There's still 2 games to go before Penn State. But I'm very much getting to the mindset of everything that Oregon's doing is just get ready for Penn State. Get ready for Penn State. Go out, win the games, cruise, build more momentum, clean up the little stuff that Oregon has actually done wrong, which haven't been very many things, and then get out there and be as prepared as you can on September 27th in Happy Valley. That's it. Avoid injuries. That's another thought that's in the back of my head. Get the starters out as soon as possible so you don't lose somebody that you really need to go beat a top 3 team, currently the number 2 team in college football, on the road in Penn State. So that's where we're at. It's kind of a relaxing. It's like Oregon's on a lazy river right now. Just get in the tube, crack open a beer, throw it in the cup holder, just float. Just float along. Eventually, you're going to go on the Grizzly River Rapids run or something like that. Dudley Do-Right's Ripsaw Falls in Orlando. Phenomenal water right out there. But for now, feels like the lazy river. Just nice and easy, smooth along. Just don't fall out of the tube. If you try to get your body into a weird position, you could flip the tube. Now you spilled beer in the pool. Oh, it's a disaster. It's a complete... Yeah, as long as you don't do that, Oregon's going to be just fine. But I want to know your thoughts. Drop them in the comments below. For those of you that have seen Ducks versus Them, the latest episode of it, you know why I started this show with Let It Rip. And I love that for a couple of reasons. And, Dan Lanning, the peeks behind the curtain that these episodes give everybody is just so awesome. Some coaches are really guarded about that stuff, or no cameras in here for all that. I get it. I understand it. I think it's awesome that Dan Lanning lets everybody see, this is how I talk to my team right before a game. This is what we're talking about in meetings. This is how I get them in the right mindset. This is how we do all that. It's fun to see, because typically, for those of you that have been college football fans for decades, you haven't seen that sort of stuff. And now you get to. And so the mantra for this week was Let It Rip, which I love for a couple of reasons. Number one, great mindset to have in sports. Number two, I have quite literally, in just my own golf game, had that thought as my primary swing thought several times. Just let it rip. It's not one I have right now, but it's one I've had in the past. It's one I've advised other people to have before, and it was awesome. And also, Oregon looked like a team on Saturday that was letting it rip. Play free, play fast, trust what you're doing, and they just did everything right. They did everything right. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go watch it, because Mike Gundy's comments were definitely used as motivation in there. Lanning did not make any bones about that, and then the team went out and played that way. But this game against Northwestern coming up this week is kind of the opposite. David Braun's not going to say anything that is going to be used as pregame motivation for Dan Lanning and the Ducks. You're playing in a stadium that I think is like 12 to 15,000 seat capacity. It's a temporary stadium. It's on Lake Michigan. It's actually pretty cool looking, but it's very small. We'll see how many. It's not going to be that loud. It's going to feel very different. That's the biggest challenge of this Northwestern game. I still think the Oregon State game will be tougher just because it's a rivalry, but you can make a case for this one because of those two factors. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. Was I wrong? Look, it's happened before. It will happen again. Not that it happens often. It doesn't. Maybe I was wrong. First, this episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Time to fuel up and turn it up with the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. If you are a golfer that loves having a transfusion on the golf course, well, I understand. I'm not that type of guy personally, but if you are, you'll love the 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. A grape, ginger, and lime flavored shot brings the iconic taste of a golf course to a non-alcoholic boost. When you're out there and you need just a little bit more energy to power through, 5-hour energy transfusion is what you want to do. And even if you're not on the golf course, if you just need to get through your day, guess what? 5-hour energy is here to help you out. So if you think about the wildest shot you've ever made on the golf course, for those of you that play, you probably had the right amount of energy, the right amount of emotional drive, right? Well, 5-hour energy, make sure you have that at any point in time during a round. Golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, and the grape ginger lime of 5-hour energy brings you the best parts of the clubhouse, and you don't have to track down the Bev card. Now, you can amp up the fun even more. Just buy, snap, and enter for a chance to win a dream golf trip for two to any golf tournament in the United States. Tee it up. Visit 5-h-e-win.com for full rules and entry. No purchase necessary. Excludes the Masters Tournament. Ends October 31st, 2025. If you want to spice up football season 2, FanDuel's the place to do it. The NFL is here. College football is here. And right now, with FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. $300. So if you picked the Vikings to win against the Bears, oh, the poor Bears. The poor Bears. Oh, man. Just not. If you think Oregon's covering this weekend, 27.5 against Northwestern on the road, hey, if you're right, $5 gets you $300 in bonus bets. So everything that you want for college football, it's over there. Or any sport for that matter. You can make every game even more exciting. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Got to have a really good second segment sip if I'm going to admit I might have been wrong about something. Okay. Send me all your questions. As always, YouTube comments, Twitter if you want priority access, and a bunch of other perks as well. Become a Locked On Ducks insider. Link in the description below. You can get a free 14-day trial. By the way, shout out to my everydayers out there. Appreciate you all very much. So, I got this question from Dana White's burner. Well, I know at least one guy that it isn't, because no way Dana White would call his own burner account that, right? This Oregon team might just be better than anticipated. Do you still see an 8-4 floor, or do you think it's raised at this point? It's a very good question. I said coming into the year at one point that 11-1 is Oregon's ceiling. And I got a lot of pushback on that because plenty of you felt like 12-0 is the ceiling. And I thought about it a little bit more and came to the conclusion, okay, yeah, if everything went right, sure, 12-0 is in the cards. I also said the floor for the team is 8-4. I don't know that the floor has actually changed that much. I think the ability to reach the ceiling in my head seems elevated. Do I want to see a little bit more? I do. It's just 2 games. What if they come out this week? It's always easy to be a prisoner of the moment. What if they come out this week against Northwestern, against a roster that they should roll, against a team that they should dominate, even though there are the difficult travel circumstances. It's a 9 a.m. kickoff as well. Forgot to mention that. So your body clock is going to be very different than what you're accustomed to with regards to playing a football game. What if they come out this weekend and they struggle for the first half? What if it's 17-7 at the half? And then they, step on the gas a little bit and they figure it out, but they just kind of, putt their way around the golf course instead of using a driver like they have. But they've been using like a quartz driver the last couple of weeks, frankly. But what if they, use the putter to get around the golf course and you look up, all right, they won 31-10. Do we change our opinion based on that one game? 2 games is a solid amount of information to have. Is not yet a complete data set worth. If Oregon does this for each of the next 2 games, where they show it once on the road, even against a lower caliber opponent, and then they do it at home against an inferior team, but in a rivalry game, then I'd say, all right, I don't know how this team is going to go 8-4. But what I felt coming into the year is, hey, how could this team go 8-4 if everything goes wrong, right? That is barring major injuries. Like if everyone stays healthy, Dante Moore, and you don't lose. Frankly, there are some spots where you could lose a couple of players, and the depth is so insane that you'd be just fine. Like take any 2 running backs pretty much out of that room at the moment, and I feel like we got plenty of talent, right? So let's say Oregon doesn't have cascading injuries where Dante Moore and 3 offensive linemen, 2 corners, and a linebacker go down, and you go, okay, this team is just so incredibly beat up. This isn't a reasonable expectation anymore to be at the same level where they were when they had all of those guys. Barring something like that, the things that I felt could go wrong coming into this year that would lead to 8-4 can still go wrong. Think about how good the Oregon team was last year. They almost lost on the road against a Wisconsin team that missed a bowl game and had a backup quarterback. A backup quarterback that I don't know that would start for most good group of 5 teams. Like Braden Locke, this guy's catching an unnecessary stray on the pod here today. But if you look at the best group of 5 teams in the country right now, he wouldn't start for them. He would not start for Boise State. He would not start for South Florida. He would not start for Tulane. He would not start for Texas State. He would not start for several other Mountain West programs. Like, he just wouldn't. And Oregon, that beat the national champs, eventual national champs, and won the Big Ten, almost lost to him. Almost lost to that guy. Yep. There were circumstances like it being the 8th straight game, and Oregon shot themselves in the foot. We know what this team's capable of doing against inferior competition. We have not seen them, and until Penn State, we won't know what they're capable of against superior competition. Now, Oklahoma State, as I said, is a better measuring stick than Montana State. Even though they're not very good, they have a higher caliber of athlete on average across the roster. And the fact that they were actually more dominant speaks to, obviously, Mike Gundy's motivational comments for the Ducks, but also how well they really played in that football game. So I hear you, Dana White's burner. I get where your head is at. And by the way, I predicted Oregon to go 11-1 coming into the year. I haven't changed that prediction. I haven't come off of that. But if you're telling me everything goes wrong, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah. You could still find you what USC looks really good through 2 games against inferior competition so far. Do they scare you more now than they did coming into the year? Because I think if you're going to have the opinion of like, well, look how Oregon's looked again in these 2 games, then you'd have to have the same opinion of USC and say that game where Oregon's a double-digit point favorite at home has to scare you more than it did coming into the season. So, do I feel better about Oregon? A little, yeah, definitely. But let's see him get through the next 2 games first, and if it's more, beating teams with 50+ points and holding them to 13 or less, yeah, I'll see that. W.T. Halliburton, is that like Tyrese Halliburton? For the SSN, I think you mean SSA. I was the one frustrated about your hesitation to give the Ducks a best-case scenario of 12-0. With the dominant start and momentum going into the Northwestern game, what is your scale of agreement now for Oregon to go 12-0? In my opinion, it shouldn't be under a 3, all jokes. Yeah, coming into the year, pretty sure I said that it was a 2 or a 3 that Oregon would go 12-0. It's going undefeated in consecutive college football seasons at the Power 4 level, exceedingly rare. Exceedingly rare. Not unheard of, not impossible, incredibly difficult to do. So, at the moment, based on the first couple of games, I mean, Indiana hasn't been that impressive. USC has been impressive. Washington, I think, is an improved team. That's a rivalry game on the road. Iowa scares me a lot less. I mean, like, a lot less than they did coming into the year. Mark Gronowski, their quarterback transfer, has thrown for 127 yards in 2 games against Albany and Iowa State. So Iowa still can't complete a forward pass. They've got a really good defense. I don't know how Mark Gronowski's scoring more than 10 points on the Oregon defense. I really don't. So going 12-0, they are further ahead than where I expected them to be, particularly on offense coming into the year. I predicted them to go 11-1 before the season began. So yeah, I think I have to give that at least a 7. At least a 7 for sure. Am I going to flip on Penn State? Ooh. I might have to talk about that one tomorrow. That might be lead segment material for tomorrow's show, which is of course the most important segment. But I care about them all. But man, yeah, that'd be fun. So my everydayers, stick around, and everybody else, you should stick around tomorrow to hear discussion on that front. But yeah, Oregon going 12-0, 7. I'll give that a 7 for the SSA, not SSN. What is this SSN? I'm assuming that's a typo, or else I've not been properly informing you all of how to submit questions and takes properly for Spencer's scale of agreement. I don't even know what the N would stand for. Social Security number? Anyway. I'll talk about Oregon's best offensive player, not named Dante Moore, tomorrow. Sometimes I go longer on segments than I anticipate, but anyway. We've still got trivia to get to because it's Tuesday trivia. I told you guys I'd keep it going during the season. You all requested it. But first, a question about Kenyon Sadiq. First, this episode brought to you by Game Time. Do you want to go to an Oregon game this year? The Northwestern game, the Oregon State game, the Penn State game? But you don't want to go through the hassle of buying tickets that some other ticket companies put you through? That is where Game Time comes in, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. They're not about endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. They want to simplify all of that, make the process better for you. I've used Game Time on multiple occasions myself for different types of events, and guess what? Worked out great because I got a great deal. I knew what to expect, got the ticket right on my phone, got into the event, no problem, no questions asked. Game Time is the way to go. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. This might be the most I've ever talked about a tight end on the show. When you look at the number of segments I did on Sadiq in the offseason, and now going throughout the season, I kind of want the announcers to stop gassing him up, or we're just going to guarantee that he'll only play 1 year as Oregon's starting tight end. But Kenyon Sadiq is awesome. So this question came from Back the Quack. When I hear teams say they have 4 to 6 guys who can play, that typically means they have no one. Oregon looks like it has 4 running backs who can start, and wide receivers take us the distance. I'd love your take on where Kenyon Sadiq fits into the offense. Is he really more valuable blocking, or will he get worked into the pass game as we get further into Big Ten play? Would love your season prediction for his yardage. I had 650 to 750 before the season started. 750, I believe, would be an Oregon record for a tight end. It's in that 700-yard range. But so far, Sadiq got plenty of attention, not just because he was down at Big Ten Media Days. Certainly that, raises the profile of somebody for, television broadcasters and media folks or people with shows like mine or whatever, when you bring a guy down there, because that's the coaching staff expressing, we expect this guy to be a big part of the team. And, look at who Oregon brought down there. You had Mateo, starter, Bryce, starter, and Kenyon Sadiq, starter as well. Kenyon Sadiq has 3 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown so far this season. Doesn't feel like a lot, does it? That's because it really isn't. I mean, I'll just do a little quick math here in my head. No, I'm not going to do it in my head. Never mind. That'd be a 360-yard season with 6 touchdowns. I should have been able to do that in my head. But I don't have to do as much math as I used to when I was in school. I don't take math classes anymore. Anyway. So, I think his pace goes over that. Like, I'd be surprised if Sadiq ends the year with less than 400 yards receiving. I think it would be a pretty awesome endorsement of the Oregon offense if Kenyon Sadiq, and frankly it is to this point already, that he has mostly been highlighted as an elite blocker, which he is, and the offense is averaging 64 points per game at this point. Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome to see. With the number of receivers Oregon has, and, I don't know if Cooper Perry keeps having a role throughout the year. Like, he just hasn't been getting as many passes, but I thought, frankly, we would have talked more about Kyler Casper than Cooper Perry at this point. But hey, best guy's going to win out. Recruit as much talent as you can. And if Oregon's going to have that level of wide receiver depth, where they have 4 to 5 wideouts that can go for 50 to 100 yards in a given game. By the way, I feel pretty good about DeCorian being the leading receiver by the end of the year. I think that's going to play itself out. I don't know that Sadiq is even going to hit 500 yards. I'd be surprised if he's under 400. So I'll land on 430 yards and 7 touchdowns. I think that's where he's at. It's not like they don't want to get him the ball. And think about this too. Sadiq hasn't been targeted a ton. Oregon hasn't needed to target him a ton. Oregon also isn't playing their starters for all 4 quarters at this point in time. That's likely to change. Both how much attention he got in the offseason, justifiably so, and how the coaches have talked about him in the offseason and all the praise they've given him, maybe they're saving him a little bit. Maybe they're trying to get the receivers involved so that, they get experience because they don't have as much as he does in terms of actual college football live game snaps. But man, I don't know how he gets to 700 receiving yards when you have this many wideouts that are making productive plays for Oregon in the passing game. And by the way, one of the reasons that having a great tight end is important is because he is an extra blocker. Everybody can be at some point. Tight ends do it the most. And so having him, be so good at that is bringing real value to the offense. It's not quantifiable on the stat sheet, but I wonder what his blocking grade is according to PFF, who had some questionable decisions or stats on what Oregon's offensive line grades have been. Yeah. I don't know what PFF is watching. Kenyon Sadiq. This is why I always say, stats are a starting point, not an end point. PFF grade is not gospel, but often useful. They have Kenyon Sadiq currently graded as the 172nd best tight end in college football with an overall grade of 59.7 and a run blocking grade of 64.8. 70 is good. 60 is bad. 59.7 is you shouldn't be starting. So, anybody want to take Kenyon Sadiq off the field? Okay. PFF, what are you watching? What are they watching over there? I have no earthly idea. Do I study Sadiq in the pass blocking? How's his pass blocking grade higher than his run blocking grade? Okay. Anyway. Moving on from that. So, before I get to today's trivia question, I'm still waiting to get an answer back on one of you on the Mel Renfro one at Hayward Field, but Charles was the one who sent that question in, so send me the answer so I can have it here on the show. But I got this one recently, and I want to point out this is players only because that's how I went through the exercise. If you worked in coaches, there would be one name that makes this list, but I interpreted the question as being players. But should I have included a coach? Maybe. Hey, Spencer, got a question for you. Who are your top 5 all-time Ducks? Not only based on performance on the field, but overall person, not limited to football. So, some of you did submit guesses. There were some really good guesses out there on who my top 5 would be. I will tell you the guys that just missed making the top. This was actually really hard. I thought about this for quite a while. Guys who just missed the top 5. Peyton Pritchard, Dennis Dixon, Tawan Porter, Jeff Mail. Those guys just missed. There are others that would be worthy of consideration, but those were ones that I floated around my head. My top 5 favorite Ducks of all time. Number 1, LaMichael James, always. Oregon's first football superstar in my lifetime. When Oregon was rising to national prominence, LaMichael was the guy. I love Darren Thomas. And that's why I made the qualifier that this is players only. Because if I was including coaches, Chip Kelly would make this list. But LaMichael is number 1. Mariota's number 2. This is in order. You're going to be surprised in the next two. Maybe. Dylan Brooks is number 3. Heart and soul of the best Oregon basketball team of all time. That had one or two things been different, might have won a national championship. Number 4 is the first Oregon star that I remember rooting for as a kid for basketball, and that's Aaron Brooks. Interesting similarity between those two guys. If I told you Brooks is game winner against UCLA, you've got 2 different shots to think about. So, number 5, the hometown factor is very real for this one. Got to be Justin Herbert. So, my top 5 favorite all-time Ducks: LaMichael, Mariota, Dylan Brooks, Aaron Brooks, Justin Herbert. Drop yours in the comments below. All right, trivia for today to wrap today's show. Tuesday trivia. Submit the trivia clues. Has to be via direct message on Instagram or Twitter, or become a Locked On Ducks insider. Not going to do it via the comments. It's just tricky to keep track of with the way YouTube comments can work sometimes. But this is a good one. This is a really, really good one. I know you've mentioned a couple of times that Blake Purchase played his freshman season and redshirted his sophomore season, which is highly unusual. But what Duck who played in a national championship game did exactly that same thing? Played as a freshman, did not play as a sophomore, redshirted, who played in a national championship game. So had to have been on either the 2010 team or the 2014 team. Played as a true freshman, redshirted. Gosh. I keep coming back to Darren Thomas. I think Darren Thomas was on the roster in like 2008, but he didn't start till 2010, and Masoli, of course, started all of 2009. Because I think Darren Thomas threw like a trick play pass against Oregon State in 2008. Trying to think if there'd be any other ones. Like, would a Casey Matthews? No. Or like DeForest Buck? No. Eric Armstead, Troy Hill, Terrence Mitchell. I'm just running through the national championship team from 2014. No, I'm going with Darren Thomas. I don't think I'm going to come up with another get. Like, my mind just went there immediately, and I got to go with my first instinct, or I'll get annoyed if I get it wrong. So I'm going to go with Darren Thomas for that trivia clue. DM me the answer. I'm already excited to see if I got it right. And if I did, I got to tell you, I'm going to be in some kind of mood tomorrow. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.